What's going on YouTube? This is going to be a quick one about Steed and what synergizes well with Steed. For the most part, Steed is going to work pretty good with anything that uses mana. It basically just buffs mana units, right? You want to try to utilize Steeds in combination with a normal build. There's some cheesy ways to make Steeds work, some less than optimal ways to make Steed work. If you look at my Angler lock-in video, we utilize Angler Steed to get an Angler out early, right? You get a Bounty Hunter upgraded to 150 a lot earlier. The general rule of thumb is 3 Steeds to 1 mana unit, or 1 Pegasus to 1 mana unit, whatever the mana unit may be. If you start getting too many Steeds and not enough mana units, you're going to diminish the Steed's value. If you get too many mana units and not enough Steeds, they're kind of, again, diminished value-wise. You either aren't getting enough spawns out of, not getting enough value out of the spawning and mana usage. Otherwise, you're getting too much value out of it, causing the Steeds to waste their mana and buff themselves. Right, and you don't want to have them buff themselves if you can help it, right? You want to try to get them to get that kind of that perfect spot. At the end of the day, Pegasus with Starcaller is really nice because it creates a kind of a feedback loop, right? Steeds give mana. Starcaller increases how fast a unit gets mana. Therefore, Steed will get buffed by Starcaller, and Starcallers then buff Steed. Right? It creates a fun little cannon effect where Starcaller will just shoot constantly, and Starcallers are obviously going to do a ton of damage per magic attack. End of the day, though, super good synergy. You can get away with doing Zeus, Halo, even Lords of Death, but certain things might be more beneficial early game rather than late, etc. You can get a massive amount of King Claws out with a massive amount of Steeds, and it'll just slam their fists all day long. But at a certain point, having Protons with Steeds stop being as valuable because Protons just don't do enough. Same can kind of be said about, like, with Anglers. Anglers early game with Steed can be great, but you can sometimes get in the sunk cost fallacy of I need to get this 150 stack Bounty Hunter, I need this, I need that, and then you never push workers. A good opener, I'd say if you're looking for an opener with Steed, isn't so much a Steed opener as it is a gate guard opener, but you can gate guard on 1, and then you can drop a Steed on 2. Either, I like to do it here in this positioning in the back to the right, or you can place it up front of the gate guard. Both are valid options. And it's just kind of an option if you want to get Steeds out early. Otherwise, you can go, like I did in my lock-in video for Angler, Bounty Hunter on 1 and 2, and then Steed on 3 for assistance on 3. A good question from chat here. What ability does the Halo use that uses mana? So, when Halos attack, they deal pure damage over time, right? When they get their mana full, it makes them attack faster for a short period of time. So in this situation, Solar Flare gives them 100% attack speed buff for 5 seconds. So you don't want to have more than enough Steeds to get that spell up, right? Another good question. How close to a unit does Steed have to be to give it mana? I think it's technically 10 squares. So you could theoretically have a Steed up on the front and then Steeds and something that uses it back here, and it'd be fine. The problem is you don't want to put gates like all the way at the back here and your Steeds all the way up front. I don't believe it will buff them. If there's a bridge gap unit, like a disciple or a pilgrim, which I didn't even add here. That was dumb of me. I forgot one of the most fun unit combinations: pilgrim and or steed. Not steed. Or harpy. You can kind of get away with a lot because of that distance gap thing. I don't think Steed Gates is worth it as much as some others would. I think at a certain point, Steed Gates, you just kind of waste a lot of the mana because the Steeds aren't really giving you a whole lot of extra value into the gates. If the gates are already getting out fast with something like a Disciple anyway, I just don't think it's worth it as much. I think a good unit all the way even into the late game is maybe Harpy, because Harpy gets all of its value from being max stacks. The more steeds you have, it can just cause that to ramp up super quick. Otherwise, something like Zeus, where it can constantly be shooting that spell, can be decent. Though I think Disciple's better for Zeus in that situation anyway. But yeah, for the most part, I like Steeds. Steeds are very usable. They can be utilized with a lot of variety of mana units. You just need to use them in moderation and make sure that you are not forgetting about a different portion of your build. For the most part, you just got to make sure your build outside of Steeds is strong. You have a good tank, you have a good DPS, and then Steeds can accentuate and make a build better. If you just go all in with too many of a single style of unit, like a good cheese build for Classic, for instance, is Starcaller Steed. The problem is, at a certain point, the Starcaller is going to start insta-killing units, and you're wasting that mana, right? It'll do a unit will be like a third HP, and it will just snipe it with a bolt. And it's just like, that's fine, but it wasted now a full killed other unit because it killed one that was half HP or a third HP. But that's kind of it for Steeds. They're a fun unit. Use them wisely. If you thought this was helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.